When I look back at when I first started making videos, I remember the beginning process was just chaotic. It was a whirlwind. I was tossing footage, I was putting stuff on the timeline. I had no rhyme or reason as to why besides me just wanting to make a cool video. Well, there's something we can do about that, and something that I've learned over the many years of me working and making videos is I have a system built. I know how to organize my timeline, how to organize my footage, and today, as non-flashy as it really is, I think organization is a fundamental thing we need to know to start making videos easier for ourselves and stay in that flow longer. So, hey, I'm gonna give you 3 tips today on how I use my system and what it is, and hopefully you can take some of those and start working towards your own. Let's go. Also, for those of you wondering, I'm a wee bit under the weather today, so we got some nice tea here to to keep me going and keep my voice working. So yeah, it's a bit warm, so I have to wait, but hey, that's why I have tea here if you're wondering. So let's start with file structure. And I know, again, we're starting off with the least glammy one, but bear with me, this is still super important and will make you inputting your footage into your editing suite that much easier. I have a very simple file folder structure that I highly recommend. Steal it, take it, use it. It's worked great for me and keeps my stuff organized. Now, when I'm on my SSD and editing off of that, I have one folder with what the video is labeled. So for example, in this video, I'm probably gonna label this 3 tips to organization. That's probably what I will label the folder. And then within that folder, I have 4 specific files inside. We have audio, we have graphics, footage, and render. Now for me, because I edit in DaVinci, I don't have a 5th one. I used to have it when I was working in Premiere Pro, where I had like a project folder file, where obviously you have to save your project somewhere, and I would save it within that folder. So all of it's nice, concise, and sitting in that same one main file folder with the title of your episode. Now, these are all pretty self-explanatory. Audio, I'm putting any music or sound effects in there. Graphics, sometimes I have to make little arrows and different things that pop up on the screen, and so I just make sure they're all in there. Footage is obviously where I'm tossing all my footage, which we'll get back to in just a second. And render, I like to just save a rendered out version of my videos and make sure I always know where they are. So if I ever have to go back to them, they're easy to find. Now, looking at footage specifically, footage is a really important one where I label that thing as specific as I can. So if I have footage from my A7S III, from my DJI Mavic Mini 2, from another camera, whatever it's going to be, I label them specifically so I know what footage is in what folder, which makes it that much more organized for you. And what I really like about pretty much all editing softwares now is you can input this file structure straight in. So in DaVinci, if I just select all of these and right click and import them as bins, DaVinci will just take them right away from me and they'll all be structured. We'll have our master and then we'll have audio, graphics, footage, and render. I tend not to include render because there's no really need to, but that way my file structure is organized. I know where everything is. It's easy to find for me, and I try to make sure that my main master bin stays as clean as possible. Clean typically means good. Less complication, less having to find where certain things are. I know exactly where everything is. So I'd highly recommend using this file structure and implementing it into your process right away. Now, the next thing I do that I think is super meaningful towards your main timeline is I color code all of my footage. What I mean by that is whether it's a specific drone shot or whether it's certain frame rate changes, they're all color coded. So for me in my system, 24 frames per second is green, 30 frames per second is blue or navy if you're working in DaVinci, and 60 frames per second is purple. Drones, I tend to color code them as yellow or orange just because I like those colors. And the main reason why I recommend you do this is that way when you're looking on your timeline, you're not kind of guessing what is what. You know that, hey, that purple, 60 frames per second. I can slow that down and I'm working off it right away. There's no going to other menus or files to try to find what it's going to be. I do this right when I implement footage into DaVinci Resolve. I go right away, I look through my footage. It's super easy to organize that way. Right click, color clip change, and it's purple, navy, or green, or red, or orange or yellow, depending on what I'm working on with drones. And that way, I'm right off to the races. There's no second guessing what I'm working with, and it's that much easier to look at your timeline and know what is what as you're working. So now we have organized our footage, audio, and graphics into folders. We've implemented those into the editing suite of your choice, and we have now color-coded the footage. we seem to be ready to go. So what I'm gonna show you next is how I work on my timeline, how I keep my timeline organized with a whole bunch of labels and stuff like that. And we can see examples of all the color coding as well. So we're gonna jump right into Resolve right now to show you how it works. So I know there looks like there's a lot of things happening here, and that's because there is, but it's properly organized where I understand it. I'm gonna walk you through it, so hopefully you can add some of these things to your own organizational system. So I was doing an interview and I had 3 different camera angles. So an A cam, a B cam, and a C cam, and I labeled them appropriately here on the side, as well as I each gave them their own specific color. Now, this kind of dipped into what I normally just color my clips in general, but I knew that these were gonna be my actual main camera angles I was working with, not my B-roll. My B-roll is labeled how it normally is if we zoom in here. So we have green here already, where I know is 24 frames per second. We have navy or blue, which I already know is 30. And then I have my purple, which I already know is 60. That way for me, I just can easily see on my timeline what I'm working with and what is what. I find that to be so much easier than having to go, oh, what is this again? Looking through my settings, trying to find things. No, I want it to be clean and easy. So color coding is such a great thing. The other thing I do is I always label all the side things. So I had A cam through C cam, and then I have B-roll 1 and B-roll 2. Above that would probably be an adjustment layer if I needed that. And then above that would probably be graphics, because I tend to not be using adjustment layers on my graphic. I do the same thing with sound. I have dialogue 1 and dialogue 2, and that way I know, I'm pretty sure I spelled that wrong, but it's fine. I know who's going to what in what dialogue. It's so easy. And then I have music 1 and music 2, and in between there I would have sound effects if I need any, but this was an interview. I did not need any sound effects. And that way I'm keeping myself super organized, and it's super easy for me to do. So I highly recommend that you start to organize your footage like this, label things correctly, and that way you can stay in the flow for so much longer. It's easier to stay focused, you're not looking for things, and it overall just makes the process so much easier. These are some really important tools you can use to make sure you're organized and make your first edits, your first steps towards the edit that much easier, keeping you focused, keeping you in the flow, and staying organized. High key recommend, whether you're going to use the different color codings I have, or the same file structure, or how I organize my timeline, I recommend doing all of those. And yeah, hopefully that makes it easier for you on your next edit. That's all I have this week. It's great, I'm excited. I'm hoping I feel a bit better for the next one. Hey, this is the first time you're watching. I make content on video and learning that and all those kind of things to do with it. High key recommend subscribing. We're almost at 300. The goal right now is to hit 500, and yeah, to see what happens from there. So yeah, let me know in the comments below which organizational tool you're gonna use this week in your next video. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'm gonna keep drinking tea so I feel a bit better. And yeah, I will see you all next week. It is tea time because my throat is not happy. Lemon ginger tea. Packs a punch but does the trick. Wow.